Let's get this party started tonight, folks. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into everything. So first off, my name's Kyle. I am coming to you from Cambridge, Massachusetts, with EF. And the background that you're seeing virtually here is actually the lobby of our North American headquarters, which is our Cambridge, Mass office. So tonight we've got a super special event. We've got two of our alumni that are here to tell us and talk to us a little bit about their gap experience, be able to answer questions from all of you. So Seth and Grace, you guys just want to give a quick wave. They're going to be hanging out here and they're going to be joining us to actually speak and share their experiences and, like I said, answer some questions. What we're going to do first is we're going to just walk through a few slides to get everybody oriented to who we are as EF, give you a little bit of background on what our programs are all about. And then in a few minutes, we'll pop back on and we'll give the floor over to Seth and Grace. So for you two, you guys can shut your video off for a couple minutes and I'll give you a shout shortly for us to be able to continue. So background on myself, just for folks that I haven't had a chance to speak with, I'm on our enrollment team with EF Gap Year. So we work with all of our students, with all of our families as they're going through the process to actually evaluate if our programs are a good fit for what they might be looking for. I'm really hopeful that tonight is an opportunity for you to get a sense of who we are as an organization, what our programs are all about, and then of course hear directly from some our alumni that are with us this evening. I've got my colleague Emma, who's also on screen. We won't see her tonight, but she's just helping me to be able to keep an eye on our Q&A. If you do have questions, feel free to drop those in your Q&A and I'll make sure to grab those questions and tease them out to Seth and Grace once we get to that portion of our program. Last piece of housekeeping. Anyone that's attending tonight, if you find that we are the program of your dreams, that a gap opportunity is the right fit for you, if you do end up enrolling before April 30th, then you'll be eligible for $500 off of your program. Folks that have already connected with their gap consultant, they are the ones that are going to set this up for you. And folks that are just starting this journey with us, all of our enrollment is going to run through an assigned gap year consultant who works in a one-to-one capacity. So you can just mention this to them. We've got all the tracking from Zoom tonight to know that you are here and we can make sure to get this applied if we get that far down the road. All right, folks, let's do this thing. So I think it's helpful if we start and just give you all background on who we are as EF, Education First, for an organization. I think the simple, easy way to put it is that we are the world leader in educational travel. We've been in business for close to 60 years at this point, and we have quite literally helped millions of people to see new places, to experience new cultures, to learn new languages and discover new things about the world and themselves in that world. So I think we come at this conversation tonight with a deep expertise and experience in running, of course, educational travel programs. And many of you actually may know us from the work that we do with high schools, with middle schools, with universities all over the country. And maybe you are familiar with educational tours or Explore America, where we're actually working with teachers all over the US to be able to take students abroad. We also have a number of additional travel programs for adults, language programs, exchange programs. And I think part of what really makes us unique is that all around the world, we have EF staff that completes our global presence. So we have offices in over 100 different countries around the world with close to 50,000 total staff in all of those countries, which for tonight's conversation, it just means that when we're talking about gap programs and all of the opportunities that we offer, it's through our network where we have boots on the ground, so to speak, where we have our staff locally in all of these countries to help be a resource and to help inform the actual experience that we're offering and running. So I think it's probably one of the big things that just makes us a little bit unique as an organization and allows us to be able to offer and have so many incredible stories like what we'll hear from Seth and Grace tonight. It also puts us in a unique position to really be, I think, deeply intertwined in the shifting landscape of education. You know, being in a position where we're working with students literally starting in middle school all the way up through adults with a heavy emphasis on high school and university partnerships. We've seen, you know, the drastic change that's happening with increase of costs of college and, you know, the pressures that have come out of the last few years with COVID, and just knowing that a lot of students are looking for a way to be able to gain education in a different way. That's what we're all about. When we think about gap year in 2023, we really think about this as a modern approach where it's really centered around purposeful, intentional time to be able to learn in a way that maybe the classroom doesn't offer, right? And we actually find that we have students that join us in between high school and college, that join us somewhere along their college journey, whether it's part of a study abroad type of opportunity. And we have students that join us after college that are all coming looking for similar things, which is a way to be able to get out of their comfort zone, connect with new people, and be able to travel and be in meaningful and sometimes pretty incredible places as well. So the summary of all of this, all of our programs, hopefully tied back to what we'll hear from our alumni, is giving students the chance to be able to be set up to really thrive in an ever-changing world. When it comes to programs, tonight's just a super, super light and quick touch on everything that we offer, but we have 3 different program categories that we run. So short term, which is about a month in length, a typical semester, which we run in the fall and the spring, and then a full gap year, which is set up just like an academic year, fall semester, break in between, and finish in your spring semester. Everything that we will talk about, all of our programs are inclusive of all of these components. So our flights, our transportation, your accommodations, meals, emergency support, pre-departure mentorship. And I want to just highlight when we think a little bit about your support system, just to dig into that a little bit more. I think this is another area where we are pretty unique in how we might approach this. And even for Seth and Grace, there's been a lot of changes and additions that we've made over the past few years to make things a little bit tighter and more cohesive here. So all of our programs are first cohort based. So you're always with other students. You're never by yourself. You also will always have, to varying degrees, depending on itinerary, location, your on-program staff, which we think of as tour directors and local guides. You also work with a program advisor who's typically based in our Boston office, our Cambridge office, who's going to work with you from the moment that you're enrolled all the way while you're on program. So if you're mom and dad and you're back at home, you know that you have the same person that you can pick and pick up the phone and give them a call that you've worked with since the day that you enrolled. And then we also have a newer position for us, which is a student life coordinator, which you can think of as close to a traveling resident advisor that's embedded with the group, that's with the group and really focused on making sure that students have support from more of a mental emotional standpoint. Short-term programs for us, most unique thing about these is that we offer these in the summer as well as the spring and the fall. So if you're here tonight thinking, what can I do over the summer, whether you're in college or before you start in the fall, short-term is probably your best bet to be able to fit in one of those experiences. And Seth tonight actually was part of our Global Business in London program last summer, which is a partnership that we have with Hult International Business School, being able to learn a little bit more about the fundamentals of business and participate in a business case study challenge with a group. We also offer a number of different semester programs, which are all 10 weeks in length, based around the combination of orientation, multiple different country experiences, and then wrapping up together. So we'll just touch on quickly on a few, with Pathfinder being European based, where you're traveling through Iceland, London, France, Germany, Switzerland, and Italy. Explorer is going to combine European travel up front in London, Amsterdam, Paris, Barcelona, with a month at an EF language school in the city of your choosing, between Nice, Rome, Berlin. So depending on the city that you wanted to live in and take the language there. And then lastly, you'll spend a month with service work and service sustainability programs in Thailand. So that's all in the same itinerary. If South America is something that's a little bit more interesting or intriguing to you and you like the emphasis on service and sustainability, Changemaker is built for that student. We've got a new offering, which is a little bit of an update of an itinerary for the Voyager that includes time in Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, and Japan. And then lastly, if gaining that hands-on business type of experience is up your alley, Entrepreneur is a 2-month internship in Stockholm, Sweden, where we'll actually work with you to partner or to place you into an internship so that you can have that Monday through Friday real world work experience. The gap year just builds on everything that we're talking about so far, includes European travel as well as travel in Australia and New Zealand, opportunities to learn a language at one of our EF language schools, the service and sustainability in the country of your choosing, as well as internship opportunity We'll hear more about this. Both of our alums tonight are graduates from the gap year. And then Seth also participated in that short-term program I mentioned. If you're thinking about how to make this happen, I think the biggest point that I like to emphasize is, number one, our entire process around enrollment and admissions flows through our gap year consultants. We find that having that personal connection is very, very important so that we can understand the goals of our students and families and get to know you and make sure that you're matched up to the best program that's fit for you. So when we think about locations, and really setting the right expectations so that you can ultimately get the most out of your experience. This is not something that you can just go online and click and sign up for. Like, we really want to make sure that you get to know us and that we get to know you. We also find that using your gap consultant to be the catalyst to put together all of the different pieces that make up planning. So payment plans, scholarship opportunities, whether it's discussing 529s, all of these different pieces are what our team is very used to discussing every day. So if you come out of tonight feeling like what we offer might be compelling for you, I would say connecting with your gap year consultant is the best next step. And it comes with no promise or expectation of enrollment. It's just the next step to be able to get more information to understand how this might particularly pertain to you. All right. So with that, Seth, Grace, time to rejoin us here. We get to the good stuff now. So as you guys get video turned back on and get yourself situated, I think what we'll do is we'll just start and we'll go left to right here. Excuse me. I'll give you guys both an opportunity just to introduce yourselves. So I think you can both come off mute, and Seth, maybe we'll start with you. Let us know where you're at, both physically as well as in life, and then you can give us the quick run through of what you did for your gap year.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Seth. I'm joining you from Chicago, Illinois, but originally I'm from Oakland, California. I'm so sorry, Kyle. What was the last part to say?
Yeah, maybe you can just mention where you're at for school now too, Seth. Maybe
Yes,
year and where you're
gotcha.
going to school, and then you can walk us through your year.
Yeah, so I'm a senior at DePaul University, which is in Chicago, and yeah, it's 4 years go so quickly, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Grace.
Cool. I'm joining you from Los Angeles, California. I'm going to UCLA right now, studying biochem and neuroscience. For my gap year, I went to Costa Rica. I lived with a host family there, and then went to Peru for service and Madrid for my internship because I wanted to be fluent in Spanish. So that was my goal.
Fantastic. All right. So I think there's a lot of questions for us to dig into, but maybe we can just start and unpack a little bit of how did a gap year get on the radar for either of you, and maybe the process from learning about this idea or maybe learning about this opportunity all the way to the point where you actually decided to sign up and say, hey, let's do this thing. Like, what was that process like for both of you? Grace, maybe we'll start with you this time.
Okay, yeah. So I had applied to a lot of colleges. I think I applied to 15 schools right out of high school. And I got accepted into a bunch of them, had a bunch of options, and I just was not sure if something didn't feel right. And I think I saw an email from EF where they're like, new gap year program. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I had gone on your Costa Rica trip with the high school trips that you guys do, and I loved it. And I saw the email and I was like, you know what? That feels right. In my head, I was like, that feels more right than just going to college right away. I had worked so hard during high school. I was like, I got to get A's, I got to do this. And I had kind of been really hard on myself. So after that, I was like, you know what? I need a break. And I was kind of scared that if I went straight to college, I was not going to reach my full potential or be my best self. So I ultimately decided, you know what? I'm going to hold off on college and I'm going to go on a gap year because I love to travel and I'll probably never get this chance again in my life. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Grace.
I actually really resonated with what Grace, what you just said. A lot of the same reasons essentially pushed me towards wanting to pursue a gap year. Similarly, I just got an email, but I had, on the contrary, never heard of EF, and this is not an understatement, like exceedingly skeptical. And I don't even know why I emailed back, but I just did, because it just seemed like a really compelling opportunity, and I just started hearing more and more about it, and I knew that this is exactly what I wanted to do. I had already gotten into DePaul, which is where I was set to go, but I deferred 1 year. And again, very similar to Grace, but also slightly different. To be honest, I wasn't the best high school student. In fact, I didn't find a drive and a desire to excel in academics until the latter portion of my high school experience, and throughout the college application process, I found it to be so anxiety inducing, and maybe if anybody's listening to this, you can relate. I mean, I think I realized that once I got into college, it was almost like wow, okay, so, and that's it. So now I'm just going to do this for 4 years. And so when I found the opportunity, just to circle back, when I found the opportunity to do the gap year and to have it organized so well, it was just too good to say no.
Amazing place for us to start. Let's dig into this part of your journeys for both of you a little bit more, and maybe Grace, we can kick it back to you. I'd wonder if you could just expand and talk to us a little bit about like the emotional journey. I think Seth started to just highlight that a little bit. I'm wondering what was that like for you? Like, we hear all the time, anxiety, nerves, excitement, like all the above, right? And it's really a spectrum. But how was that experience for you, and how did you work through all those emotions to finally get to a spot where you show up on day one and you start this crazy year ahead?
Yeah. So it kind of scared people that I was so excited. I was not nervous at all. They're like, aren't you scared you're going to be like a year behind other people, like your peers? And I was like, no, like, I'm not scared. I'm like so excited. Like, every part of me was like, could not wait to travel the world. I was like, I love different cultures. I love different languages. And I love just like experiencing life. I didn't want to let life happen to me, but I like wanted to make life happen. And I think that was like the only way at that time. So it was like pure excitement and just pure joy to be traveling, for sure.
Perfect. Seth, anything else you would want to add on that topic?
And I do apologize. Would you mind repeating the topic?
No worries. Yeah, just wondering your kind of emotional journey from the
Oh, yeah.
time of finding this, feeling super skeptical, and then showing up on day one to actually start this year.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll make it short and sweet. I think, like, and Grace touched on this, the stigma around taking a gap year, especially within this country, is really interesting. And it does vary, but definitely the majority of the time, right, people might say like, oh, well, that's odd, that's strange, you should just go straight into college. And yeah, that in my opinion, slightly, forgive me for saying, maybe not the right word, but I feel like it's almost like a delusional thing to think that you're a year behind. I think in many ways it puts you ahead of your peers. And if you look at other like countries and cultures, it's almost like a mandatory thing. It's an incredible opportunity for growth. And for me, similar to Grace, I was just extremely excited. And again, slightly on the contrary, many of my friends were like, damn, I kind of wish I was doing that. So yeah.
It's a great answer. Thanks, Seth. All right, let's start to transition into this whole crazy year that both of you went on. So now I have to imagine you get this question, which is, well, what was your favorite part? And I know I've chatted with both of you and I've heard that, and it's the impossible question, right? How do you even unpack that? So let's try to come at it from a little bit of a different angle tonight. And I think we'll keep it a little bit wide for both of you to just tease out. Maybe you could start with one or two moments that were meaningful for you at some point throughout your year, and you could just tell us a little bit of why that was. If it's helpful, what has worked in the past for other students is you maybe just think about the fall, right? As you started the first semester in the fall, traveling, learning a language, doing service, maybe you could just pick out, a moment that was meaningful for either of you.
That is just the toughest question. I had so many good experiences, but I think one really meaningful experience for me during my time in Peru, we were working on a farm in the high Andes, and it's this really remote village. And this was like one of my favorite projects of the service projects. We're working on this farm, and they speak Quechua there, so it's not like Spanish. It's kind of like a different dialect, and it's interesting because I can understand Spanish, and I can speak and get my way around, but with Quechua, I like have no idea what they're saying. And so we were working on the farm with these people who speak Quechua, and he was saying something to me in Quechua, and I just like could not understand. I felt so bad. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know. I said that in Spanish. And he says this in Spanish. He goes, it's okay. We communicate through the earth. And I think because we were working on the farm and we were planting stuff together. And like that moment, I just like my heart just felt like it was so sweet. And so I felt so connected to their culture and their people. And I always remember that. I actually wrote my college essay about that exact moment. So yeah.
That's a powerful one, Grace. Thank you. Seth, what's a moment that stands out for you?
Yeah. I mean, like Grace said, there's too many to count. But one that comes to mind was when I was in my language portion, studying Spanish in Barcelona. And I think one of the most impactful things for me there was not just the people I met, but I think many my friends and my peers, family members would describe me as an extrovert. I really love being around people, being around friends. It's definitely where I get a lot of my life energy from. But that was weirdly enough, it was the first time in my life that I think I actually enjoyed being alone and being able to sit with myself almost. It sounds silly, but almost in a meditative sense. There's so much to explore in that city, so much culture, food, beauty, art, but also stunning viewpoints. And I take hours just hiking up the hills of Barcelona and spending time with myself. That I think really, really helped me grow as a person. And it actually, I think it expanded my mind in a sense that I wasn't able to, I think, do before. And so I really love that time by myself. But apart from that, of course, being with friends during that portion too, going out and seeing the city, and being in those classrooms, that environment was just incredible. I still think about it to this day. It's something I'll never forget.
Awesome. All right. We've got some great questions. So I'm going to start feeding some questions that folks have asked in the chat and kind of intertwine it into our year. So Grace, maybe I'll just kick it back to you to keep this ping pong action working here. Could you just talk to us a little bit about the process of meeting and connecting people? So I think there's questions tonight about, do you get a chance to meet people prior to the program? And then I think maybe if you could just expand on, what is it like coming in, not knowing anybody and making friends? How did that go?
I'm super lucky in the sense that I'm also pretty extroverted, like Seth. And so I don't struggle as much. Like I can't relate to introverts as much when it comes to connecting with people, because it just brings me so much joy. I think people are like fascinating. I even started I started interviewing people on my gap year from different countries, from Norway, Japan, Sweden, Finland, all these places, because I wanted to know like what life was like for them, because it brings me so much joy and curiosity to like get to know people, that there's more than just like, me and all I know. So I wanted to like gain knowledge from other people, and meeting people in the gap year program specifically was so fun. I recently, actually for my 21st birthday, went backpacking in Iceland with a friend from the gap year. So that was super fun. And I just think that these are lifelong friends that you'll have. I'm obviously still not talking to like everybody from the gap year program, but there's just like these few prized people that I care a lot about. And so you'll meet a lot of cool people.
Amazing. Seth,
Yeah.
maybe as part of your answer too, I think, and for both of you tonight, maybe it's good if you intertwine what it was like for other people in your cohort too, because I'm sure you saw some people had different experiences of like being nervous up front versus not being nervous and just going through that process of connecting with people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think to speak for others during who are on my cohort, I think everybody became great friends with everybody. And I think it almost even like transcended friendship. They felt like my family at a certain point. You're seeing these individuals every single day. And I always like to think that when you travel with someone, it's like it's like multiplying being friends with them just in like normal, regular, everyday life. You get to see so much of a person when you travel. And there's obviously ups and downs, but for me, and I think I could speak for everybody, at least on my cohort, everybody had a fantastic time. And I'd be lying if I said that people didn't feel lonely sometimes or homesick. But I never saw anyone who couldn't get through it. And I think it made all of us feel a lot more unified. And so that sense of solidarity, friendship and family that I got from everybody in my cohort was just, it's something I still think about to this day. Actually, in the slideshow, you showed a photo from my cohort of some friends of mine who I think must have been in the Thailand part of their volunteer trip, or maybe it was Costa Rica. But and it just choked me up a little bit because I miss a lot of them a lot still.
Sticks with you, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, fantastic. So let's interject a quick, impossible question for both of you, but we have someone curious about, of all of the modules that you did, so guided exploration, service, language, internship, did you have a favorite? And maybe you can expand or unpack why.
So I think my favorite was actually my internship module in Madrid. And it's hard to explain why, but like I left a piece of my heart in Madrid. I miss it so much. I want to live there when I'm older for at least like a year or two. He's pointing to his shirt. Love it. Yeah, so Madrid is just an incredible city. The food is amazing. Spain in general is so beautiful. And just it felt like adulting for the first time. You're living in an apartment with other roommates. You have this like job you're going to. It's like the best city in the world. So, I mean, yeah, that would be my favorite for sure.
I actually hate to give you the same answer, but I also happen
Do it
to
to us,
intern.
Seth.
I interned in yeah, I interned in Madrid as well, and I think that was my favorite one as well. But it's funny. I had it's very interesting to hear Grace talk about her experience because it's like so similar with mine, but also just different enough. Because my internship was great. Don't get me, I loved it. And actually helped me get a lot of internships afterwards throughout my college career. But I think a lot of the people were they're having kids. They were much older, and I mean, I got up at like 6 a.m. every day, took the train, got there by like 7, grinded. But it was I think the kind of I'm gonna try and use the right words to describe this. I think when you're that young and it's your first kind of, you feel like it's your first kind of like almost like corporate job in a sense, it feels almost special. So I never got burned out because I was always excited the entire time. And it felt really cool to be the only person in the office who could translate from Spanish to English or vice versa. So I felt incredibly useful. I had a very strong sense of purpose, and the freedom that goes along with feeling like, again, like Grace said, like adulting. It's an incredibly liberating feeling, especially for an 18-year-old to feel. So it was really, really awesome. And I'll keep it succinct, but yeah, it's great.
Seth, we had a one follow-up for you. Could you just maybe
Yeah.
touch on what did you do for your internship?
Yeah, I had so if people always are like, what did you do? Well, I work for a dental supply company. It sounds really random, but essentially they're like imagine Amazon, but like across Europe, and they just sell supplies to dentists, like all the tools, the machinery, stuff like that. And so I essentially was put in charge of the entire United Kingdom, like their marketing department. I would answer every phone call, answer every email from the UK and Northern Ireland, and or not Northern Ireland, the regular Ireland. Sorry to anyone who's from Ireland, and so yeah, I mean I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And we had one more follow up, and we'll start with Seth and then kick it back to Grace. But what did you do with your internship? Like, did you put this on your resume? You mentioned this helped you with future applications. Like, how did that show up for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I found it to be incredibly useful. In fact, I don't think I would have as stacked of a resume as I do right now had I not have had that internship in Madrid. I think it's also in order to, I think when you put that on your resume, something like that, well, I mean, if it's not even Madrid, it could be, I mean, I had friends who did their internships in Tokyo, and just imagine putting that on a resume that differentiates you a lot. So I've had 4 internships now at this point in my life. And absolutely, like the second one, third one, and fourth one, I think were all influenced by the first one I had. And of course, after you have that first one, having 2 is great. Now you have 3 and 4. So, but I don't even think I would have gotten that far had I not have had the internship in Madrid.
That's great. Grace, anything you would add to your takeaways from internship after the fact?
Yeah, so I actually have not had an internship since, and it's because I've kind of been dealing with other stuff and worried about other stuff right now. But I totally agree with Seth. It has like put that on your resume. It totally differentiates you from the rest. And for my internship, I actually worked with a company called Learn Hot English, and basically we provide English learning tools to everybody across the globe. So my job specifically was to make postal deliveries because I was the only person that could speak Spanish. So I had to like speak Spanish with the postal people. And then also I had to do all the behind the scenes social media stuff. So I was managing all the mail that went out and all the behind the scenes LinkedIn stuff. I was making connections for my boss, and also just other things like Instagram. And anyways, it was a lot, but it really taught me a lot about hard work, and just, yeah, it propels you forward in your career. It doesn't matter where you work, dental supply chain or whatever. It's just good experience. Experience is experience. So yeah.
Phenomenal. All right, Grace, let's stick with you here. We've got a good question, I think, that will challenge both of you to think a little bit. Was there a low point through your year? And I think oftentimes this might be framed as like, a challenging moment. And how did you work through that? Challenge, whether it's like physically or emotionally throughout your year.
I think a low point during my year is like drama can happen. I don't attract drama or cause drama. That's just not who I am. But some stuff just inevitably happens sometimes, where you maybe are clashing with another person and you just don't get along with them. And sometimes I have a hard time accepting the fact that not everybody's going to like you. And that's going to be true on your gap year. It's going to be true in real life. And so like I had to deal with people who are just upset at me for a reason I could not understand. And so for about like a month on my gap year, I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Like, how can I, like, do I have to act different around them or say certain, like, it was just difficult to navigate that. And you just gotta like stay in your own lane. And this year is for you. So just, I don't know how to describe it, but you just got to worry about yourself, and you're not going to have a chance like this ever again. So it's not worth the drama or, the worry.
is it fair to say too, Grace, and I'm picking up from chatting with lots of alums, that there's points where being away from home, being on the road, living in a new city can be physically draining, and it just makes everything like a little bit more, I don't know,
Oh,
maybe
totally.
short fuse, a little bit more irritable. Yeah.
Totally elevates all your moods, good
Yeah.
and bad. And, yeah, so it was hard to just like look past that and be like, bro, I'm in another country. Like, what am I doing? Like, stop wasting time. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Like
sure.
reframe back to your goals. Like, why am I doing this type of question? Yeah. Hey, we had another really good question too. Seth, I'll kick this your way if you could help unpack this. But we had a question about, someone that was wondering what y'all's take is about missing or not going straight into freshman year and how that might impact your social life and college experience. And they're wondering, how did you navigate social life going into college after a gap year?
Oh yeah. Wow, that's a great question. So yeah, I think my answer will be like a little like twofold, which is that I think it's incredibly impactful in a positive way because you have a certain amount of life experience now that I don't want to sound like arrogant here, but you have a certain amount of life experience now that most of your peers don't have. Not only that, you're about a year older, give or take, than the rest of your peers. And so that can definitely also, and then this is kind of the other side of my answer, which is sometimes it can be, you almost feel like a little annoyed by like people who are a little younger than you, who might not like have the same resolve or discipline or life experience as you. At least I sort of found that to be the case sometimes. But I think that that's not necessarily a negative thing. I think it actually empowers you and puts you in a position to essentially become a natural leader. I think that, for me personally, certain lessons that I learned, and also soft skills throughout my gap year, I still apply to this day. And I can like demonstrably see how I feel like my college career was greatly augmented and heightened because I took the gap year. But yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of awesome because I remember like, it sounds a little braggy, but when people are like, oh yeah, what were you up to over the summer? Or like, people ask that question and you're like, oh, I took this gap year, I traveled, I did all this. People are like, what? You did what? And people just want to talk to you about it. And so it's a pretty cool thing to tell people that you did. So I hope that answers your question.
That's a great answer, Seth. Grace, anything that you would want to add? The
Yeah, I
social
just
life
want to
transition?
echo,
Yeah.
I want to echo off of Seth really quick. It just makes you a more well-rounded person. And totally what Seth was saying, it kind of bothers me even still to this day when people are a little ignorant to certain things. And because of what I experienced on my gap year, it opens your mind to things you couldn't see otherwise, especially experiencing different cultures and how people deal with low wages and how people deal with maybe not being able to put food on the table. Like you just see all sorts of things and you just become the best version of yourself by seeing those things. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, we had a couple questions about college and your like application, deferral, how you decided where you went. I know you both have actually pretty different stories, so this might be good contrast. And Seth, maybe we can start with you. Yours is just a little bit more straightforward, and Grace's took a few extra turns. So I think it's good to unpack both of those. But how did you approach the like college planning deferral process, Seth?
It's a great question. And again, yeah, nothing complicated about this answer. I just called my school. I say, who do I need to talk to about deferring? They said, stay on the line. Somebody picked up the phone. I said, I'd like to defer a year. They said, okay. And then I did. That was it. And then I went on my gap year. Super easy. I think any college would have the exact same easy, straightforward process.
Seth, sometimes people are surprised when they hear that answer. They're like, wait, there's got to be more to it, right?
No, not really.
No.
No.
Yeah. Straightforward.
Yeah.
Cool.
In fact, wait, let me just interject. They loved
Yeah.
it. Especially like I have a lot of friends who went to a lot of Ivy League schools. A lot of them are like, hey, do you want to go in a gap year? Like I think like it's interesting. A lot of these really prestigious schools, I feel like, are catching on, or they caught on a little bit earlier, ahead of the curve. They're like, you should take a gap year before coming here. So, I mean, yeah, they like it.
It's a great point. I know we are down the road from Harvard. And I know they have sent a letter to every freshman who's admitted, asking them if they want to take a gap year. And they've done it for 30 plus years at this point. All right, Grace, talk to us about how you approach college, because you had a college, then you gapped, then yeah. So walk us through all this.
Yeah, man, I'm an enigma. So,
But maybe not, maybe more common in this cohort of gap year students, right?
I like my path. I like how viney it was. I'm so happy with where I'm at.
It's the goal.
Yeah, so I had originally, like I said, I got into like a bunch of colleges after high school, was planning to major in Spanish because I love speaking Spanish. Um, but I was like, you know what? Maybe that's just a hobby. And maybe like that was another reason why I went on the gap year. I was like, maybe Spanish is just a hobby. Maybe I should go on a gap year to really decide what I'm good at and what I excel at and what I should pursue. So yeah, I went on the gap year. I actually applied to colleges while I was on the gap year, and I was like, okay, what's the plan after this? And then I was gonna go to NYU. I got into NYU, and then COVID hit, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to spend out of state tuition for online college at NYU while COVID's going on. So I'm going to go to community college. And you're probably like, what is she doing? Community college? I'm a huge advocate for community college. I still work so tightly with the community college, like community colleges across California. I'm a mentor for community college students that want to go to UCLA. And yeah, I paid $7 per semester to go to community college. And I had teachers that came from Brown, UCLA, UC Berkeley, such great teachers, really good education that's really intimate, perfect for COVID. And so went there for 2 years, got my associates in biology. And I did all my applications, and sorry, this is like a really long answer, but this is really how it went for me. So hope you're following along. Yeah, so I did all the application process my sophomore year of community college, I guess is what I would call it. And got into UCLA, got into UC Berkeley, got into UC Davis. Those are the 3 schools I applied to. And I was going to study environmental science because I really like all sciences and it's interdisciplinary. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to UCLA. Never thought I'd say that. Never thought I'd be here, but I'm here. And I studied environmental science for 2 quarters. And I was like, you know what? I'm really good at science. I really love it. And so I'm going to do biochem and neuroscience. And I really want to help people. And if you guys want to learn more about what I'm specifically doing with that, I can drop my Instagram later or something and you guys can contact me. But yeah, so I'm just studying how like toxins affect the brain, and yeah, I'm loving it.
And Grace, do you feel like your gap year informed what you decided to study and like this whole college, process and path that you've been on? How did that show up for you?
Definitely. Yeah. So the whole environmental science thing stemmed from my gap year. We worked on that farm, like I was saying, in Peru, and they work a lot with sustainability and like it's all like manual labor. So none of it was electric tools. You literally are just like slaving away every day. And these people are just so close with the earth. It's almost like a spiritual experience. And so I was like, and every time I step foot in like nature, I get emotional. I love it so much. And I'm like, bro, we're totally ruining our planet. And not only are we ruining the planet, but like the toxins and stuff and chemicals that we're putting into the atmosphere and using in our food and everything is messing with our brains and our kids' brains. And so I want to be part of the solution. I know it's kind of like a roundabout way. I'm like, you're like, how did you even get there? But I love so many things. And like, yeah, I just want to help people. And ultimately my gap year helped me decide that I could help people with science, especially this, if that's like a strong suit of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, great. I think we've got a few, let's call it the potpourri category of questions here. Did anybody take college credit as part of their year? Did either of you do that? No. Yeah. Okay. No worries. I think we were trying to get a sense of what that's like. For folks that are interested, things have changed actually a little bit since Seth and Grace have been on program. So it actually might not even be super relevant. We kind of change those courses in classwork every year. All right. Let's start to get into actually, believe it or not, wrapping up. Time flies when you're having fun on here, people. So I think like maybe 2 or 3 closing questions here. First would be, and maybe Seth, we'll kick it your way to start this off. If somebody here tonight is in this boat of thinking, hey, maybe I'm interested in doing this, like what sort of advice do you think that you might throw their direction?
Yeah, well, I think first thing I would want to say is, because I don't want to sound insensitive, I know this program costs, money, and it can be a significant amount of money. But I think if you have the resources, I think if you have the willingness, the desire, and I think moreover the curiosity to do it, if you have all those things, then absolutely you should do it. I think that if you can do it and you're worried about maybe how things will go or how my experiences will go, how I might feel, how I might perform traveling in school or the internship or however it is, I think you should you should push yourself, get outside your comfort zone, absolutely do it. It changed my life. Like that sounds like a kind of a cliche, some platitude, but it genuinely changed my life, and put me on a trajectory that I can honestly say I'm so happy to have been on, to be currently on, to continue to be on. It's expanded my network more than you can believe. I think I saw somebody's question pop up in the chat for a second. Like, do you still keep in contact with the people? Absolutely. And of course, with what Grace said, not everybody, but for me, a significant amount of the people in my cohort, absolutely. I've visited them countless times in their respective cities all over the United States. I'm planning a reunion with them. There's always like a reunion plan with a certain group of people, and it either happens or it doesn't, but it's always happening. Yeah, it's been the greatest gift that I gave myself, that my parents really gave to me, if you really think about it, financially speaking. But I would say absolutely do it.
Grace, what do you have to say? Any advice if somebody's in this spot of maybe tonight?
Yeah. If you're feeling unfulfilled, that's a heavy feeling to feel and to deal with. And I think in order to fill that void of unfulfillment, a gap year is a perfect choice for you. Not only is it just so exciting to travel the world, but like I said before, you become the best version of yourself. And yeah, you just get to cater your year to your own desires. And I think that's the most exciting part. So if you're on the fence, just weigh out the cost and benefits. And if, it's sounding more like it might cause problems in the future, then maybe a different program is for you, or maybe going to community college first is for you. There's just so many different paths you can go on. There's no set path. And that's the most exciting part about it all. There's nothing wrong with the path you're choosing, as long as it gets you to the destination you want to be at. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, we're getting some awesome last minute questions here, so we'll try to keep buzzing through these. But Seth, we had a few folks asking about global business. Could you give us a little summary of what that was like, and what do you think people need to know about that program?
Yeah, the one in London.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that one was great. I felt really privileged because I got the scholarship to go, and it was incredible. Something I didn't mention was that my major is marketing. I have a concentration in sales, and I double minor in finance and Spanish. And Spanish kind of came from also the gap year. But something that, at least during my session, which was this past summer, marketing was definitely the focus. And I'm going to assume that it's going to be probably this summer, but
Correct.
regardless, perfect then. It was incredible. You learn from actual professionals who have real experience within the marketing world and the business world overall. You study, forecast trends. You're able to kind of digest all these different analytics, but moreover, learn in an incredible and great classroom environment. I'm sure it is Holt Business School, because I know EF and Holt are somewhat connected. So the faculty was incredible. The extracurriculars were absolutely awesome. Of course, we traveled to Paris one weekend. I'm gonna assume that's also
Correct.
still the case. Correct.
You got
Awesome.
it. Yep.
And apart from that, the people I was with were just fantastic. Of course, you don't get along with everybody. And I was much older than my peers. I was definitely the oldest. But I mean, it was incredible nonetheless. I learned a lot, and it actually not, I'm very much like tooting EF's horn here, but like it was incredibly relevant to the coursework that I take for my major. And I'm again, like, I feel like it doesn't sound genuine, but truly it is. A lot of the assignments and projects that I had throughout this entire year, I mean, it was a piece of cake, because essentially the fundamentals that I needed to have to apply to all the projects that I had this quarter, I had already had in my tool belt, because I did the exact same thing over the summer. So I mean, I could go on and on and on, but it was an incredible experience that was incredibly useful and practical, and I loved it.
Phenomenal. We've got another one here. Grace, we have a few folks that are interested in taking you up on your offer to connect afterwards. So we can either do that via email, or if you feel comfortable to drop your Instagram in the chat, you could go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I
too.
was gonna ask actually, because my message thing only says to host and panelist. So if I say hi, like, do you guys see that message or no? I just typed hi in the chat.
You can send it to me, and then I'll repost it for everybody. If you want to just send it direct to me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then while you're doing that, I think we've got a couple folks that were interested. Maybe we'll go Seth, just since Grace is typing, and then Grace, you can follow up on this too. But the question is, what did you not anticipate or wish you knew about before going on your program? What did you not anticipate or wish you knew before starting your program?
Oh, that's a great question. What did I not anticipate? I mean, the reason I'm struggling to find the words to answer that question, I think, is because it's very similar to the what was your favorite part? Like, if anybody asks you that after you finish your gap year, it's kind of like everything. My answer is like everything. I know it's not a very satisfactory answer. Everything is like, I didn't expect everything, but I mean, in terms of challenges, hurdles, yeah, I would definitely say maybe conflict. So conflict is bound to happen. It's natural. It's okay. Sometimes you don't always get along with the people in your cohort. Nothing that can't get squashed. I suppose that I didn't expect. I thank God never had any like health problems. I had a friend of mine got appendicitis and had to like stay in the hospital in Bangkok for like a week. That was why. I mean, I didn't go to Thailand. I just heard about it. There's just things like that. But yeah, I wish I wasn't struggling so much with that question, but I hope that, answers your question even in the slightest. So
I think that gives us a taste there, Seth,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grace, thoughts on this one?
This sounds really bitter. I don't want to sound bitter or like I'm all high and mighty, but people are going to be on the gap year and not want to get the most out of it. They're going to be there for way different reasons than you. And it bothered me so bad. It bothered me so bad. I was like, you will never be in this country or this place ever again. and they just chose different life choices than I would make. And it made my heart hurt a little bit, I'm gonna be honest. Because I wanted to get the most out of it. I was like, I will never be living with this host family again, or I'll never be able to go to this school in Costa Rica again, or I'll never be, like there's just things that are like a once in a lifetime chance that people passed up for things you can do anytime in life. And yeah, I think I didn't anticipate that. I thought everybody would be there to get the most out of it. And, you just gotta again, stay in your own lane. It's the best way to be in life, for sure.
It's interesting when you start to think about the most can look different for different people, right? Maybe they were getting the most for themselves at the time. Yep. It's an important lesson for all of us to learn going through that. Yeah. All right, folks, we are right up at time. Seth and Grace are busy university students that have tons of homework that they need to run off to and make sure that they get that taken care of. Right, guys? Right to schoolwork after this. Yep,
exactly.
Of course. Yes. Both of you, thank you so much. This has been incredibly helpful. All of our audience tonight, you guys have asked amazing questions. If there are things that we didn't get to, we know that both of these two amazing alumni are incredibly generous, so we can find ways to connect via email or just follow up if there's specific things. Obviously, they have a wealth of knowledge to be able to share. So we're going to wrap up tonight, though. We're going to let everybody run to dinner, homework, all the above. Grace and Seth, hopefully we can get to see more of you guys. Really, really thank you for being here tonight, and awesome to have the great attendance that we did. So we'll close up. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully we get to chat and get connected with your gap year consultant after tonight, which is kind of the final step, and to bring it back to what we did. And all of tonight will be recorded. We've got ways to be able to follow up, just to reiterate all that. All right, team, off to the races. See you guys later. Thank you all so much.